Cade McFarland, John Hoover. We're going to be breaking down OU football, just assuming that there is a season sometime, somehow, some way.
Yeah.
John, we know where you've worked in the past. We see the Sports Illustrated behind us, but tell us where people can find your work now.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated has a college network, and I'm one of the affiliates. I'm the publisher at one of the affiliates, Sports Illustrated Sooners, SI Sooners, allsooners.com. So it's a website. We cover the Sooners basically every day, pandemic or no pandemic.
All right. We always start with quarterback, right?
Definitely.
Is it safe to assume it's Spencer Rattler, or do you want to take this conversation a different way? Can I assume it's Spencer Rattler and then ask you my question, or do you have something you want to say on Tanner Mordecai's behalf before we get
before I commit to it being Spencer Rattler, and I think it will be Spencer Rattler. I think he's going to have to win the job. I really do. Mordecai's been there a year longer. He's been in the system a year longer. He knows the playbook a year better. And here's the thing with Mordecai, though, is he's a little bit like Baker. When you talk to him, he's like, I'm not backing down. Whoever's in front of me, I'm going to try and pass them. So he's got that little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I think we're seeing that. Probably we're going to see that in August when practice starts.
Okay. Now, let's assume it is Spencer Rattler. What does he – everybody knows five-star quarterback, just incredibly live arm. But how do you see him fitting in as a first-year guy? And how do you think Lincoln Riley uses him? What do you think the offense looks like if it's Spencer Rattler at quarterback?
Well, he's a little bit unique. He came in as a five-star guy, set all those records in Arizona. The guy's arm velocity is just off the charts. He's got a stronger arm than Baker, stronger arm than Jalen Hurts for sure, and probably has a stronger arm. I'm talking exit, release, velocity, all that stuff, than Kyler Murray. So think about that. That doesn't necessarily win you the job. He's less of a runner than the last two guys, probably more along the lines of Baker when he runs the football. The question becomes, and I referred to this earlier, how well does he know the playbook? How well does he know the defense? The defenses that he's facing, can he adjust? Can he diagnose things before they happen, before the snap? And really, if you think about it, Cayden, can he kind of handle the pressure? And I don't mean the blitzes. I mean the pressure of being the OU quarterback. He's a guy who was, remember now, kicked off the team his senior year in high school. Comes in a little bit immature perhaps. So if he can handle that pressure, if he can adapt to the spotlight of being the OU quarterback, I think he'll be fine.
All right, with regard to Alex Grinch and the defense, you know, in part because of what LSU did to them in the bowl game, the numbers ended up being kind of middle of the pack. You know, if you look at most of the efficiency numbers, they were kind of in the 50s in terms of nationally. Wait, what is improvement in year two? What do you suppose is expected of these guys? What is the best version of OU's speed D in 2020?
Yeah, Cayden, they're going to have to play a lot better. Now they did play better. When you talk about middle of the pack, that was a huge jump from 2018. 2019 was an enormous jump under Alex Grinch. But I think what 63-28 in the Peach Bowl revealed was the lack of depth that I think we all kind of knew was there. Alex Grinch told us numerous times last year, you know, you go down on Monday or Tuesday or whatever it is to interview him. He told us probably 8 or 10 times, we want more guys playing safety. Our two safeties, Delaren Turner-Yell and Pat Fields, lead the team in snaps at their positions because nobody else is coming. Nobody else. We're trying to develop those guys. We're hoping somebody pops up, and it never happened. Then you get Delaren Turner-Yell out in the Peach Bowl, and you get a ejection from Buki Radley-Hiles, and you see all of a sudden the stark lack of depth that they had last year. So they're trying to develop that. They're trying to recruit 6'2", 6'3" guys in the secondary, and I think that'll help. I don't know how much it'll help this year, but I think that'll help down the road.
Yeah, so safe to say still a work in progress. OU's going to have to win football games with its offense again.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the defense, if they can get a takeaway here or there, something more timely, because that's something that really haunted them last year. It became a mental block where takeaways, they just couldn't do it. So if they can get takeaways this year at a slightly more regular pace than what they did last year, I think they'll be a lot better off.
Even if they don't end up playing a conference schedule, you know, we can cling to the hope that there is a conference schedule, and the Sooners will be going for a 6th straight Big 12 championship. You know, but Texas has a lot of experience at quarterback, and OSU, you know, with Hubbard and Wallace, I mean, those are all American kind of guys, and they have a lot coming back. So I think that at least outside of Norman, there are a number of people who think that this thing is maybe a little more up for grabs than it's been for the most part over the last half decade. OU wins the Big 12 and gets back to the college football playoff if blank happens. Fill that in for me.
Sure. If they beat Oklahoma State and win the Big 12 for the 6th year in a row, they'll be back in the playoff. I kind of learned my lesson over the years to not pick against OU. I picked a couple of years ago for Lindy's magazine. I picked Oklahoma State, and I called the editor this year and I said, "What do you think about Oklahoma State?" And he goes, "John, OU's won it 5 years in a row." And I said, "You know what? You're right. Until someone takes it from Oklahoma, we have to go with Oklahoma." So, but I think Oklahoma State this year, across the board, legit talent. They've got some of the best players at their positions in the country. They got a lot of people back on defense, some real playmakers. They've got growth, obviously, from a young quarterback. If Oklahoma can avoid that shocking upset somewhere and get past, I'm going to say, either Texas or Oklahoma State, then they need to beat one of those guys twice, obviously.
Yep.
Then they'll be a playoff team. The question becomes, is that enough for Sooner Nation? Are they getting hungry for something more than just another playoff trip?
Yep. I want to ask you about Lincoln Riley. You were here for the entire Stoops era. And, like players, coaches, I think, have a peak, and Stoops, his first 5 years, they never did quite get back to that. And if he was going to get another national title, in hindsight, it needed to be in 03 or 04. With Lincoln Riley, now we're coming up on the end of the first half decade, if you will, or getting close to it. Do you think he's at all antsy about that and that's on his mind? Or do you think this guy's so smart and is so young and has all the answers that nobody in OU Nation needs to be that concerned about, let's say the next year or two and whether or not OU is able to climb the mountain by that point?
You said a mouthful and you said it all, I think, very well. I don't know what I could add to it, but one of the things you said stands out, and that he is so smart. He really is, in terms of like an IQ level. And I don't mean football IQ. I mean, like, if you were to put him in a laboratory and put the little things on his head and test him, I think Lincoln Riley's IQ would be really, really high up there. I think he's very smart. Having said all that, I think that allows him to realize there's a lot of opportunities every year, literally in every game, to win this game, to win this conference, to win get to the playoff and win a national championship. I think he sees the big picture better than a lot of people do, and that includes a lot of Division I coaches who have had success and have maybe even won national championships. He sees things from a perspective, and you referenced it with the COVID thing and how he's handling all this. He just sees things from a 30,000-foot perspective. He sees the big picture. That allows him, I think, to not panic, to not go after JUCO guys, or to say, if we don't win it with Baker, we're never going to get it. Oh my gosh, Kyler's leaving next year. If we don't win it without Kyler, we're never going to win it. He sees the possibility of recruiting Jalen Hurts, and he sees the possibility of what Spencer Rattler brings to the position. He sees down the road recruiting, as I mentioned earlier, those 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" defensive backs that you see throughout the SEC. He knows there's two things he needs. He's got, obviously, good linebackers. Everybody needs good linebackers, but you need big defensive linemen and you need big defensive backs to be able to play on that level, to win those games. And that's where he's at right now. He's trying to supplement those defensive backs, bring them in. And then if you look at who they're recruiting defensive line-wise, he's got his eye on the future. Him and Alex Grinch have decided this is the way we're ever going to get out of this playoff funk. This is the way we're going to win a playoff game and win a national championship. So I think they've got their eyes on the prize.
You added a lot. That's a great answer. Okay, I was thinking through, the possibility of, let's start with, what if they go to a conference-only schedule? And there are just a billion what-ifs out there. But the thought of playing your very first game of the year as a conference game with a new quarterback, it starts getting a little bit nervy. If this thing goes conference-only, what is maybe one of the big questions in your mind, one of the big storylines with regard to this 2020 OU team?
Well, they've got a difficult schedule already, non-conference wise. They got to go to Army, and that's always a challenge, as we saw 2 years ago. And then they've got to welcome Tennessee back to Owen Field. If those games happen, those are going to be tough games. Mm-hmm. But jumping into conference, it'll be think about this, Cayden. The last conference game they played was Baylor. The next conference game they're going to play is Baylor. So that's just the way the schedule fell. Then you've got Texas, then you've got Oklahoma State in there, TCU's in there. This is going to be a challenge for Oklahoma. Iowa State's in there. You know, we're talking about the 4 ranked teams in the Big 12 Conference are all front-loaded for OU. So there's no time for, bringing Bobby Petrino to town and getting warmed up, getting a scrimmage in with Missouri State, or, getting your feet wet with Army or whatever it may be. They'll have to hit the ground literally running and throwing and rushing the passer and covering and tackling and all that stuff.
John, it was good seeing you. Great job. Really enjoyed that.